Welcome back into Climbing the Summit podcast, where the ultimate goal is self-discovery, self-realization. I have a fellow traveler in the building with me, Jason Deppin. I am your host, Danny Cobbin. How are you today, my friend?
I'm wonderful. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to chat about what we're going to talk about. So, yeah, I think it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, man, I called you up today and was just kind of in the vibe to teach you about a tool. And I don't know how you felt about what I was when I said, "Yo, I got a tool for you." But generally, for me, I don't like tools. I gotta figure out when to use the tool. I gotta make sure I'm utilizing the right tool at the time. And more importantly than that, when you and I went to Super Coach Academy, I believe we got what I think of as a universal tool. In Star Trek terms, it's a replicator. If you like spacey stuff, usually they have some sort of instrument in the ship that if you say you want ramen noodles, a shovel, a pickaxe, almost anything but a gun, it says, here you go, we'll give it to you. But that universal tool that we got is learning that reality works from the inside out, not outside in. Would you agree with that being the universal tool that we kind of stepped away from Super Coach Academy with?
Yeah, I think just to clarify that a little bit, maybe you would agree with this that it's our experience of life that's created from the inside out. So, well, reality is, I'm holding this pen or what we call as a pen. It's my meaning that my mind makes of this pen. Who took my last pen and nobody, everybody's rude, that type of thing. That kind of sets up our experience of life.
That is a great explanation or expansion of the core concept or tenet that I'm talking about. Yeah, 100%. So when I came across this tool in my 300-hour yoga teacher training, um, not that I immediately wanted to throw it away because we've learned a lot of tools and I could see how they are valuable, but only in certain situations, certain circumstances. But learning about the feedback wheel, um, I feel like it's so mind blowing to me because of the way that I'm currently communicating in my relationships, that having a framework is really helpful to get started with.
Yeah, and what you said earlier makes sense too, because it seems like it would have been reversed. I would have sent you something like this, and then you would have been like, "Oh, it's a tool." You would have had some resistance to it. So, but it was actually a little bit on the reverse. So, yeah, and I think you and I have experienced this as well, right? It's just kind of like, hey, we're seeing things differently. Let's each share our views and talk about it, and see if we come to some type of common agreement, or you could say compromise, but yeah, I'm
Yeah.
interested to see kind of yeah, I don't really know how I'm going to feel about this because yeah, I feel like, well, I don't want to jump ahead too far.
Okay. All right. So let me just give it to you guys real quick so that you know, and then we can play around. We can see where we are with everything. It's it's basically five steps. Five steps. The first step is ask the person, "Are you in a space that you would like to talk? Can you can you talk about something?" And I believe that that first step gives the person, like, it's one of the most valuable steps because it gives that other person the opportunity to not feel blindsided by whatever the conversation is. And that seems to be one of the issues that I've found and other people that I know have, is how do we um, jump into this thing without the other person feeling blindsided? Because once I feel blindsided, then my ego stepping in, and then it's my ego versus your ego, and we never really get to the root base cause. So I think that first step is super crucial, bro. Is, hey, is now a good time?
I see that this is posted online. Is this something that I could create like a tiny URL and we could let people know where that's at so they can find it?
Yes, let me go ahead and tell you, the person that this work is based on and created from is Terry Real, TerryReal. And it's on the internet. You can go look it up online. There's lots of different documents, lots of different PDF formats that you could take a look at. I found one on Dr. Bonnie's relationshiprehab.com.
So I just posted it. I made a tiny URL. So if you go to tinyurl.com/feedback wheel, WHEEL, then you should be able to access it as long as it's still up when you're listening to this on the original site. So that's just a short redirect.
Nice. Thank you for that, Jason. Because I think this is like, it's one thing to hear somebody talk about it. It's another thing when you can go look at the document and you can take a look at it for yourself. And that's what we want you to do. That's the difference between research and exploration, right? Research is, hey, I heard Jason and Danny talking about this thing. Let's give it a go. Exploration is, I heard Danny and Jason talking about this thing. Let me go do a little bit of research. Then let me go see how this plays out in the real world. And I've done a little research with it. That's why I really think it's valuable overall. So that was step one is, hey, let the person know, is this a good time? Step two is just state the facts. So if the facts are, Danny, you were at yoga. Jason, you are on a podcast. Just state the facts. And something important to note about this, though, is people, when you're giving feedback or wanting to elicit feedback from a person, can only take small chunks. So 5 or 6 sentences for the entirety of your first statement to that other person.
Okay, now is a good time to talk. Actually, I've also found that because I'll come up and just start blabbing on to my wife about something. She's in the middle of a text conversation and I'm thinking like, God, she's stuck in her phone, but she was already in the middle of something before I even came up there. So now what I've noticed that we've been doing now is like, hey, do you have a second? Or, are you wrapped up in something? Even just not even for big conversations, but just in general. The other thing too is like, in a sense, you're getting agreement. Like this person has signed on. They said I'm open to this conversation. So they're not really like blindsided by it, which I think is important as far as like opening somebody up.
100%. 100%. And then the second thing is just state the facts. I think we just talked about that a little bit. And then the third one is state your thoughts and interpretations in 1 or 2 sentences. So what I made up about you being at yoga, or what I made up about you being gone. And this is important, I believe, from the standpoint of my recognition. One of the things that we talk about often is red light, yellow light, green light. Red light, yellow light, green light. If you're in a yellow, so this is about when I'm feeling a type of way about another person. So if I know that whatever my feelings, my thoughts, my emotions, whatever that is, if I know that it's coming from me, it's a green light. If I think a little bit is coming from another person, it's yellow. If I think it's all them, it's red. Stop, get out the car, take a minute, figure things out, because another person cannot ultimately make you feel a way. It's like what Jason was saying about the pen. The reality is this is a pen, but how I feel about that reality, based on where that is, that's what this piece is, I think, so important. It's because I have to then recognize, okay, what am I feeling? What is it that I'm actually trying to get across to this other person? And it's not just that, like you're saying, blabbing on about whatever, and the person's in a different space, a different place. And so I think that's super, super valuable. So first thing is, hey, are you available to talk? Because like you said, the person might be reading a text message. They might be in a conversation with somebody else. They may be thinking about something else. But to bring that presence to here and now is huge. And then to state the facts. This is what is, so that we don't have anything to argue about, right? This is that's made me come up with it in my own mind. Now that in a way says, oh, I recognize that I'm making this up, but even if I am making this up, I want to let you know that this is what's being made up. So valuable, dude. And then go ahead. You go ahead. Got something?
Yeah, one thing I wanted to say, and this is what we've been doing in my house, is like just with my wife and I. for now. Um, I'm feeling shame. So this is not you're shaming me. I'm feeling shame. So she might come up and say, "Oh, hey, you know, I can't think of a good example, but like, did you get a lot of work done today, right?" And here I am feeling like, God, she went and worked all day. I didn't really get as much done as I wanted to. She's not happy with the amount of work I'm doing, right? So like I'm feeling shame. Whereas for her intention, she's just making chit chat. So I think letting the other person know what I'm feeling versus like, well, you said that and it's making me, you're shaming me because we don't really even know their intentions.
So that's the fourth step, actually, right? The fourth step is to state your feelings about what you've made up, about the reality. And you have to use this is how I feel about that thing, right? So I think that's the whole thing is mind blowing to me because, hey, are you in a space? Yes. Okay, cool. This is the reality of the situation. Shouldn't be anything to argue with there. This is what I've made up about this situation. I'm just now informing you of what I see based on my reality. And then I'm telling you how I feel. Like, look, unarguable statements. That's the way Brittany, my yoga instructor, talked about it. Unarguable statements about how you feel. Like, hey, I feel agitated. I feel like heat's moving up the back of my spine. I feel swirls in my stomach. Like those could mean anything, right? But that's how I feel in this moment. And then the last thing is make a request or tell them what you would like to see instead. So just a quick thing that's never happened, but I think this is just the gist of this is an example of this coming together. Is hey, do you have time to chat? Yes. I was at yoga teacher training this past weekend. Because of that, I've made up in my head that you don't love me. And that makes me feel sad and upset. Next time I'm at yoga teacher training, could you do X? Now that other person can say no. No, that doesn't seem reasonable. But that's a great place to start for the other person to then be like, okay, this person gave me the facts, this person gave me how they feel about it. And now they can actually internalize without feeling attacked whatever you just said. I was like, bro, this is a tool I want to share.
Yeah, number two. So it says, or no, excuse me. It says number three is here's what I made up about it. And a place where I'm focusing now is separating myself from what my mind is doing. So I can say, like, I'm feeling this way, or I can say, like, my mind is telling a story that blah, blah, blah. Right. So it's like the other person knows, maybe it's my wife, she knows, hey, here's what his mind is doing. She knows I can't help it. Like, this is how it looks to me right now. That's the point. That's why we're talking about it. So rather than like, I made this up, because then if I made it up, well, I'm a jerk. Why would you think that? That's such a jerk thing to do. It's like, this is what my mind is doing. I'm not doing it. So I might tweak that one. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that those are two different steps, right? One is saying, this is what my mind made up. This is what I noticed. This is the story that I'm telling myself. I think that's one step. And I think the next step, like on step 4, is then you tell them your emotion. This is what I'm feeling because of that made up step. But that's what I was saying is that second step is the powerful one for my own world because I have to recognize the story that's being made up based on that reality.
Yeah. And I guess the distinction that I'm making is this is my mind creating this story. I'm witnessing it too. I guess she
Why
thinks
do
I'm
you
an
feel
asshole.
what about you making it specific to your mind versus just saying this is the story that I'm making up? What's the distinction for you there?
I guess it's agency and ownership. If I'm doing it, If this is the story I'm making up, then I can change it. However, I can't change it because right now I'm stuck in it. This is the way that it looks to me. My mind, my conditioning is based on all of its experiences presenting this story to me, and it looks true to me. So it kind of, for me, it gives some separation, and I'm not as attached to the story. It's like, oh, wow, I'm really having a hard time with this situation, versus like, it's kind of more, what am I identifying with? Am I identifying with what my mind is doing, or am I identifying as also one who's witnessing what my mind is doing?
In the moment of this occurring, I would assume that a person, me, you, whoever, is believing what my mind is doing. That's why we're having the conversation in the beginning. Because if I didn't believe what my mind was saying, then I wouldn't have to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, exactly. It looks true to me, but I'm not doing it, right? I'm not the author of it. It's my conditioning.
That taking that, I guess, in context of utilizing this tool, how is that valuable to take the conversation from this is what's going on as the experience of I, which is the isness, the allness, all of this is what I am seeing, versus saying, hey, my mind is making up this story, which I feel like is already being stated by saying this is the story that is being told or whatever. I think we're saying the same thing, and I'm just trying to understand why an extra distinction needs to be made that your mind is doing it when
Yeah, I think
what
it,
else is
it
happening?
removes the guilt. It lets the other person know, as long as the other person understands the whole concept of mind and conditioning and that type of thing. So like, if you're with your significant other and you're having this conversation, obviously you guys are both on the same page with how the mind works. So, you know, I'm not, I guess it depends who you're identified with. I don't know. It's just, for me, it's more valuable. And so I would specifically tweak number 3 to say, here's how it looks to me versus like I'm making it up, just because it's
Well,
too,
sorry.
yeah, it seems like it's too, like, it's like too emotional to be like I'm making this up versus here's what's happening. Like they say, number 2, just the facts. I noticed my mind is making up a story about this. um so yeah, maybe it's just personal style, but I feel like that is it's a valuable distinction.
Yeah, I mean, if do you feel like that's a valuable distinction, by like, cool. I mean, because like the thing itself says, state your thoughts and interpretations in a sentence or two. So like adding the whole I have to explain my mind takes away from the ultimate intent and purpose in my mind of why you would even go down the road of utilizing this tool in the first place. Because for me, like, this, me telling you this isn't about what my mind is or isn't doing. It's about my interpretation of reality. Like, yeah, cool. My mind made it up. I made it up. Whoever made it up. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't really seem like it matters, because this is the experience that I'm experiencing. And because this is the experience that I'm explaining to you the experience that I'm experiencing. I mean, we're always experiencing our mind. We're always experiencing thought. It seems like that would be going outside of the purview of this specific tool, um, because ultimately the tool came from the mind, right? That's what we learned about the replicator.
Yeah, see, there we go. Interesting way even discussing this and the different ways in which we see things. So okay. All right. So we got number 3, number 4. State your feelings about this. I'm feeling, right. So like I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling lonely. And then make a request. Okay. So the other thing I want to say about make a request is, preferences. Like, here's what I like. I would love if you did this. Actually, you know what? If I could tell a quick story about Mother's Day. Is that okay, Danny?
Yeah, I would love that.
Okay. So typically I haven't been that good on Mother's Day because, like, it's not a big deal. She's not my mom. It's like that's Ella's business. It's my daughter's business. Well, I've been working on getting little bit better. This holiday did kind of slip up where I didn't really make any plans or anything like that. But we did on Friday stop and picked up flowers. So she had flowers over the weekend and stuff. And then I planned sushi. Go get sushi. Well, man, she was in a funk, man. She was struggling with it. And I told her, like, hey, let's podcast about it. This is perfect. She's like, I don't want to do that. She's wrapped up in it or whatever. So, throughout the day and stuff, we're chatting, and it's like, and I did tell my daughter, like, we want to know what Jen likes. If she likes going on a walk on Mother's Day, if she likes going to pick flowers, what is it that would be an ideal day for you? It's important for me to know that, because for me, an ideal Father's Day, like, we can just sit and watch a movie. Like, I don't need to go anywhere. I have my own taste. She has her own. So since I'm in a relationship and I care about this person, let me find out what's important to them, and let me see if I can give that to them. So yeah, actually this morning she texted me and she said, thanks for your patience with me yesterday, which surprised me because I'm thinking I'm the asshole that didn't like make it a special day, didn't plan, when in reality, we're looking at this paper here. It's like her mind made up a story about how my expectations of Mother's Day here, and then here's where Mother's Day actually is, right? So that gap between expectations and reality is her frustration. So it was really cool, and I'm proud of her for seeing that. Hey, this is my problem. I'm struggling with this, and Jason was patient with me during this time of my struggle. So I think that ties in with step number 5 here, is like stating our preferences, and it's like, hey, you like this, I can do that for you. That's not a big deal.
Bro, that's awesome. Like, that's so cool to hear that's been the progression, because I know a story like that would not have happened a few years ago, right? So that's like freaking awesome. And another thing about this specific tool that we're talking about, the feedback wheel, is it sounds like that's what she did, right? Like, yes, I can talk about the feedback wheel as this is what I'm seeing on the paper. You hear, like, we should throw in mind, but ultimately, if you can communicate with whoever it is, and you can start by, hey, this is a good time to communicate. Like, I think that's what she did, right? And then she's like, hey, like, I think you both already kind of knew the reality. So she just told you about her experience of what she's feeling, and then you saying, oh, okay, well, here's the request, or I made a request, she made a request, and we're able to compliment each other in whatever way that is, man. And I know I'm adding a little to that, but I know that you guys compliment each other really well. But yeah, man, I think that ultimately that's what happened there is y'all utilize this in y'all's own way. I think the reason why it's been so powerful for me, specifically, is because I have not communicated generally like this. It's just been like, this is what's wrong with what's going on. And I'm not even making the distinction between my reality and the problem that I actually want to address. Right. So all yoga weekend was about slowing down. And it sounds like you and your wife, bro, are slowing down, because you've sent me a few messages about some really cool things that transactions. They're not transactions. A few different communicatas between you and your wife that I think everybody would be like, that's the direction we want our relationship to move in, just like this.
Yeah, and I think when you sent me this tool, and I said it seems like this is the default when we get clear. So
I didn't hear you
if
say that,
oh,
but
okay.
I agree with that. That's why I think it's cool to talk about it. Keep going. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, so it almost seems like, yes, this is cool, like, to see this, but I'm noticing that this is already what's happening, right? Because it's not a place of blame. When I see that her mind is doing whatever her mind is doing, my mind is doing whatever my mind is doing, we're both subject to that same human experience, um, that common humanity. She has her struggles, she's going to get caught up. I'm going to get caught up. Can I be there for her when she gets caught up? Yes, luckily, if I don't get taken away by emotion, I most likely can give her the space she needs, whatever. But all this stuff is just like a logical way to proceed. Once we see that, like, okay, my mind is making some shit up, her mind's making some shit up, she never called me like she said she would, let me find out what's going on. I wonder what happened. Did you get caught up, or did just really just kind of like looking at the facts, like it says here on number 2.
Bro, so the reason why, like I was saying, the reason why I think this tool is so valuable is because I do believe that this is actually how it works whenever you get clear on whatever is going on. Like, this has happened a few times to me in the past, but I didn't have any words to put to it. So I think that's what's like really like triggering me into this like beautiful state about this specific tool is, oh my gosh, somebody put into words how things actually work versus us having to figure it all out one step at a time, or somebody like me rambling on trying to explain it. But once we are clear, very clear with what we are trying to do, with how we want to approach a person, like we can take our thought creative reality to especially our significant other and express that to them, and they can find some sort of equilibrium in themselves so that they can respond back to whether it is our ego or it is ourselves. So man, Jason, I appreciate you opening up about your relationship. I appreciate you taking some time to run through this with me. And yeah, man, it's been great.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thanks for sharing this tool. Definitely helpful to kind of see it on paper here. I did want to say one last thing if I can.
Yeah.
You know, that number 3 where it says, here's what I made up about it, right? And we're saying this is what looks true. That's why I'm struggling. That's the benefit of seeing how the mind works. That's the benefit of seeing our thought created realities. Because if you don't know what did I make up about it? I didn't make anything up about it. This person's just being a jerk. I didn't make, what are you talking about? If we can see that, like, okay, my mind is presenting this story to me. It thinks it's real. However, my mind also knows how the mind works. So it can question that interpretation of reality. Cause like, maybe that's not what this person meant when they said this. Let me ask, like, hey, I was thinking it was like this, but I'm guessing it probably wasn't. Would you mind clarifying? Because I don't want to think it is and it's not. So yeah, man, thanks for sharing this tool and thanks for having me on. This was a great episode.
That was a big that was a big realization that you just threw in there. So if y'all need to re-listen to that again, by all means go listen to it again. Send me any positive and or negative things that you experience when going out and trying this, when you experiment with this. You guys have a great day. Thanks, Jason. Thank you all for listening. It really means a lot to me that you are spending, whether it is 5 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour with me, because your time is valuable and I see and I respect it.